Do
Yeah.
you ever get in that like rut where you're like, I'm stuck in this head zone, but I need to shift gears, but it's really
Yeah.
difficult to pull out of a spot?
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that headspace for about 2 years now. It's a very difficult thing to buck, because I did not plan well financially. Those of you that know me out there have heard this story before on my Instagram and whatever. But basically, when I finished Mother 47, my most successful graphic novel so far, my most successful creator-owned book, very very happy with it. Haven't gotten a single negative word about it, which has been a huge honor. Um, I realized I had put every scrap of my attention in that and had not planned anything after it. So suddenly I found myself kind of unemployed. I still had a bit of Kickstarter money for, a few months, but I really, that doesn't give me enough time to start something new that's going to actually make money. So I was like, crap, what do I do? And my business partner, Zach Howard, had been saying for a few months at that point, why didn't you just move out here to Denver? Because I was in Sioux Falls at the time,
Oh,
and
cool.
you can work at my wife's vet clinic to get yourself back on your feet. And the difficulty with starting back up a regular job is that you think you can just like do this for a few months, get the money, and get back on it. But what you forget is that once your brain is in that different mode, it's so hard to switch back to creating. And I'm like super introverted and like that much autistic. So it's like just being out in public takes so much energy. Like at the end of the day, when it's like, I technically have an hour or two to make something, I'm completely dead. And it's like, so it's been a very rough uphill battle trying to, and I don't want to imply even in the slightest that I'm ungrateful for this wonderful opportunity, because it's allowing me to, pay off my debt and my student loans and all that stuff. So that's been super useful. But I'm finally clawing my way back into, getting back on that career horse. I got this mini comic planned. I'm hoping to do, a set of 3 mini comics sort of printed together.
Ooh.
I'm working on this perspective course that also I'm going to kickstart. So hopefully that's enough money to start taking time off at the clinic so I can actually start making comics again. And like it's at first I was downright embarrassed because I was like, I was a completely art supported artist for years,
Hmm.
just living on my own, just making it happen, supporting myself with art, but I didn't plan well enough. And so now I'm having to deal with the consequences, which is it's a hard lesson, but I think it's a very necessary lesson. And at the end of the day, I'm grateful that I'm having to go through this because it's a really good slap on the wrist is like, don't let this happen again. So I already
Mm.
have a whole system set up where I basically always have something ready to go. Now I'm not going to again put myself in the position of not having work lined up when I finish a project. So I don't even remember where that explanation started, but that's my current situation.
No, I mean, and that's a lot to unpack there too, because for one, like a vet clinic is like a really intense job too. You know what I mean? There's like
Can
there's
be.
a
It
lot.
can
Yeah,
be.
yeah. Like it seems like you're dealing with a lot of like animals, and there's a lot that goes through that doors. I'm sure that you have to like kind of cope with and like mentally channel through at that point too. And that's just like
Mhm.
animal handling. That's not even dealing with the people at that essence
Right.
too. Like not even taking that on. There's a lot that goes into stuff like that. I've had friends who do clinical stuff for vets, and I know it gets really rough sometimes.
That's a
So I
lot.
mean, coming home and then being like, oh, I get to be creative in myself. You're exhausted. I mean, finding that
Right.
energy to like put your best work out there at the same time,
Right.
it's draining, And I think
Right.
that's where a lot of us are just like, man, even if I do like half an hour, 15 minutes of something on my worst days, it's at least some progress. But even that seems like the hardest task. And I don't think a lot of like normal people realize that like we don't all
Right.
go home and get to turn on TV and to like kick back and enjoy. We
No.
go home and start our other job and try to balance all this out and still deliver at our other occupation as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to take in there, just
Well, and
alone.
you get all this like, when you go to cons and stuff, people want to, this is where they have their fun nerd time and they want to talk about, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you read this? And I'm like, I can't articulate to you just how little time I have. Like I haven't had a moment that wasn't full of something that was absolutely necessary for like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. And and at first I really beat myself up. Like, why is this so hard? Just do it. And Zach again, said like, you don't beat yourself up about that. Like,
Mhm.
creative work takes so much emotional energy. Like he likes to say like he's had because he used to do a lot of rugby. He's like, I've had rugby matches that were less exhausting than one day of making comics. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that sounds actually that's the first thing I've heard that has gelled with my experience, as opposed to all the people who've never made any kind of drawing in their life and are like, why can't you just do it super quick and be done? It's like, no,
Yeah.
I want it to be good. It has to be good. There's no point in doing it if it's not going to be good. And that's
Yeah.
my biggest stance, I think.
Oh, I totally feel you on that. Especially
Yeah.
as someone who's like learning how to draw right now, and I'm trying to like get to a point where I can make my own like mini comics and whatnot. I'm basically
Hmm.
essentially a writer, but I'm trying to get all my skill sets going.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like when you're attempting to put stuff on a page, and you're so self-critical about yourself too. Like I'm super self-critical about anything I start putting on, and
Hmm.
having the energy to like visualize and put it into practice and like work through it, because even warming up your hand and like getting used to like what you're working with and having it come out,
Hmm.
that is just so mentally draining sometimes that your
Yeah.
hand hasn't even done anything yet. Like you haven't
Right.
even started and you're already
Right.
exhausted before you sit down. You like psych
Right.
yourself out sometimes. But
Yeah.
people don't get like you have to really find a channel and a vibe and a zone and like
Yeah.
go into that and just let it wash over you. And that's another thing, is that when you get too involved, that can start impacting your day job, because now you're up too late and now you're not going to get
Right.
sleep and now you're
Right.
drained for your workday, which is going to drain you
Right.
for the evening that you wanted to work. And it's like this
Right.
domino cycle you have to kind of plan for. That
Yeah.
I had one great
Yeah.
day, let's hope for more. But it gets rough. It's super rough. And in this economy, like, are any of us okay? You know?
No, like, no, no. And again, I'm
Yeah.
working super since I have this very generous and kind safety net I have right now. Like my landlady is a work friend, so my rent is very low for the area.
Mhm.
I have the support of Zach and his wife. Like, I know I can't go hungry because I have them and stuff like that. So basically everything I make goes straight to get rid of this student loan and get rid of all this stuff. Just like get rid of it, because after that you have creative freedom,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
your money, as much as I hate it having to be about money, it is about money because money is how you buy creative freedom. Money is how you buy a peaceful day where you can just draw and make actual progress on your book. So I'm trying to take, the energy I still have while I'm young and really push through this hard period so that I have the rest of my life to make stuff, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a great outlook. And that's like the harsh truth that it's hard for anyone to kind of accept and follow. You know what I mean? Like we all
Yeah.
say it's not about, we're not in this to make money and we're not in this to, all this stuff. But in the long run, we're in this to make money to survive as an artist,
Right.
like
Right.
that's like the bottom line we all want at a certain
Right.
point. And
Exactly.
you got to pay rent, you got to eat, you got to feed the cats, you know what I mean? Like all sorts of stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's just in the cycle of you can't escape it, so you got to figure out how to make it work for you in the best
Yeah.
benefit. And student
Yeah.
loans just suck. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in
It's
debt
and
up
it
to my neck in them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things, it's like it's often hard to validate even to yourself, which is why I started doing those, daily work reports on Instagram
Oh, I love
just for
those.
my just for my own mentality and kind of to yell at other people to be like, "No, no, no. I'm busting my ass every second. I want you to realize this. These days are so full. Like I haven't had a not 15-hour long day in longer than I can remember." And
I
it's
feel.
just it's just like that, but I am getting closer. It is coming. It's getting there.
Do you feel like you're like getting closer to just replace it with other things though? Or do you feel like you're getting closer to actually have like downtime?
Downtime is not on the menu right now. And I mean, I know, I understand my own mental health needs enough that downtime has always been part of the schedule. Like I do
Oh,
have a little bit of time every night where I just like wind down, read. Sometimes I like, watch a show or something, but I try not to do evening screens. It makes a big difference in my life. Um, but yeah, that's to an extent that's always been the part of it. Actually like taking, like a vacation or something, that's
uh,
nowhere on the
I
horizon.
don't know what
But
that is.
someday. Yeah,
I
I
really
don't.
don't.
I try to pretend cons are vacations even though
Same.
they are they're more exhausting than a normal day, but at least it's in a positive way. At least it's in like the sense of overwhelmed is not from I have so much work in front of me and I don't know how I'm going to process this and I'm going to go broke in 2 days. Every 2 days it's that again, but it's like, but at a con, at least the stimuli is positive. People like, wow, let me buy this, and I like your stuff, and let me regale you about some completely unrelated thing. But you can tell they're just so happy to be there. So it's
Yep.
exhausting, but at least in a good way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every time I was working at full time at a grocery store for a long time. And it was one of those things where I'd ask for, so many times off to like go to a convention. And they're like, oh, cool. You get to go and have fun and relax and have a good time. But then, like, I'm there doing interviews, I'm doing live stuff, I'm capturing stuff. I'm trying to like
Right, of
also
course.
promote my own work at the same time and give out copies and trade work and schedule
Yeah.
things. And you're like, oh, that was my weekend off. And now I'm back to 9 days straight because I had 5 days
Right.
off.
Right.
Like it's not,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
it's
no
just
rest.
it's not a break at all. It's just a different kind of work. It's fun work, but it's like yeah, and people who don't do that have really no sense of how it works. Like no shade at all. There's no reason they should. But it's what like I remember I had a friend in comics once who was like, "Oh, a friend of mine who's not in the arts at all heard I was going to be in her city because I was at a con. She was like, "Oh, we should get lunch that day." And he was like, "You don't understand. I
You
don't,
could bring me
you're
lunch.
lucky if you get to eat a bunch of french fries really quickly behind your table, like hidden under your tablecloth, like you're lucky if you get that.
Yeah,
That's a
because
con.